With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Dylan Strickland, who writes, "Okay, John, we are running out of time for January." Oh, here we go. "We are running out of time for January, and the question is killing me. What are your top 10 movies of 2019? I know you hate top 10s, but I'm super intrigued to know. Thanks, and bring on the filthy." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, I have been so procrastinating getting this list together for a couple of reasons. When the new year happened, when January 1st hit, there were still one or two films that I knew would be in contention for my top 10 that I hadn't seen yet. I wanted to make sure I saw those. And then I've just been so busy with the channel, with the documentary that we're making, all that kind of stuff. So I have been procrastinating, but I have been putting off doing my top 10 list. But I thought, damn it, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it before January's over. So here we are, guys. We're going to do my personal top 10. Now, remember, these top 10 lists are completely arbitrary. It is the top 10 to me. My list is going to look different than your list because that's the nature of film. It all strikes us differently. My list will look different than your list. I want to mention a couple of honorable mentions before we get into my top 10. Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx. Fabulous movie. So good. So well done. Enjoyed it immensely. Peanut Butter Falcon. Well, I mean, you could mention another Shia LaBeouf movie as well, Honey Boy. Honey Boy, Peanut Butter Falcon, both incredible movies, so much depth, so much heart, enjoyed them tremendously. They're just so good. What's the number one rule, everybody? Party. They were just so great. I mean, so there's a couple honorable mentions. Also, I just want to mention a couple of really great pleasant surprise movies. Crawl was such a great pleasant surprise movie. Ready or Not, such a great pleasant surprise movie. Fighting with My Family. Such a pleasant surprise movie. So there's some really good pleasant surprise movies in there as well. But let's not waste any time. Let's dive into it and get into my top 10 of the year. And by the way, I may recite my top 10 again in 3 months, and one or two of these films may change order. I mean, that's just the nature of it. But for now, here are my top 10 films of 2019. We're going to start off, we're going to go from bottom to the top. Ooh, you guys all know what my number one film is, but whatever. We're going to go from the bottom to the top. We're going to start at number 10. Number 10, making it into my top 10 films of the year, the excellent film, even if it was too long, Marty Scorsese's The Irishman. Yes, this film was too long because it was longer than what this film needed to be. This film didn't need to have all the awesomeness. It didn't need to be the length that it was. That notwithstanding, the movie is great. The performances are stellar. I think Robert De Niro was robbed of a Best Lead Actor. Robbed might be too strong a word, but I think Robert De Niro deserved a Best Lead Actor nomination at the Academy Awards this year. This is Scorsese telling a Scorsese-like story with performances that he seems uniquely able to bring out. Ray Romano was also really good in this film, by the way. Everybody was excited about The Irishman, and The Irishman delivered. And delivered well. So The Irishman gets the number 10 spot on my best films of the year list. All right, let's move on to number 9. And number 9 is a film that was my number 1 film of the year for a little while. My number 9 film right now is Booksmart. Now, I know this one isn't going to make it onto a lot of people's lists, and that's fine. But within this raunchy comedy, there's these things we call raunchy comedies. We don't expect depth or heart or humanity in a lot of these raunchy comedies. We just expect good laughs, and that's fine. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But what Olivia Wilde was able to do with Booksmart, she was able to, I call Booksmart the smarter man's Superbad. I think Booksmart is the smarter man's Superbad. But not only did it have great laughs, like hilarious, hard belly laughs, I found it had way more depth and way more heart, and I loved these characters, and I loved their dynamic together, and it shouldn't have surprised us that the lead girl is actually Jonah Hill's sister, so there's another little Superbad connection. And I thought what Olivia Wilde did with this simple premise in what we normally think about as a raunchy kind of coming-of-age, leaving school comedy, she put so much more into it than I thought, and I remember walking out of that theater earlier in the year just being like, my heart was full watching it. My heart was full watching it. with fun and laughter and emotion. I just think the movie's great, and I honestly think it gets a little bit underrated. So yes, without any shame, I tell you that for me, Booksmart makes it in my top 10, and it is my number 9 film of the year. All right, let's now move on to my number 8 film of the year. Number 8, maybe the best performance of the year from Joaquin Phoenix. I'm calling it The Joker. Joker is the best comic book movie of the year. It is one of the overall best films of the year. It has one of, if not the best performance of the year from Joaquin Phoenix. It took the approach of, let's take a comic book character, but let's throw the rules of a comic book movie out the window and just make a great, compelling story without worrying about sticking to the motifs of a comic book movie, and tell this story of a comic book character if he were in our real world today, facing some of the real world issues that are faced today. What would Joker look like? And the only way you're going to be able to pull that out is to get a world-class performance, and they did that with Joaquin Phoenix. I remember, too, when one of the things that excited me most about Joker was the fact that, thankfully, we were finally getting a comic book-based film that isn't connected to any of the ridiculous shared cinematic universes. And I love the shared cinematic universes. I do, but I just think it's ridiculous that everything has to be in a shared cinematic universe. Like that so limits creativity, and it so limits the imagination, and it's so limiting to what the filmmakers can do. I was so excited when they announced this Joker movie because it was going to be outside of any existing shared cinematic universe, just to see a filmmaker really just tell a story without any handcuffs on and see what they can really do. And what Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix were able to pull off was nothing short of wonderful and amazing. Top 10 film of the year. I love Joker. You're probably going to see Joaquin Phoenix win Best Actor this year, and deservedly so. So at number 8, I've got Joker. Okay, let's move on to number 7. Our 7th film on our list, talking about performances, dear heavens, and maybe a guy that could be challenging Joaquin Phoenix for Best Lead Actor. Talking about Marriage Story. Here's the thing. This to me was the most remarkable thing about watching Marriage Story. All right. Besides the amazing revelatory performance of Adam Driver. I mean, we all knew Adam Driver was good. I didn't know that we understood that he was this good. Okay. Whether it was the incredible performance by Scarlett Johansson or Laura Dern, or everybody else in this film. Usually, great movies do one of two things. They give a wild premise and experience, or they give us something that feels incredibly real. And it seems like the more wild of the experience you want to give an audience, the further away from making it feel real, and vice versa. And so you've got great films that do one, great films that do the other. Marriage Story is one of these movies that just felt wild to watch because of the dynamics that were going on, but at the same time felt brutally, uncomfortably familiar and real to the audience. And none of that works if they don't get the performances that they need to really give it that authentic kind of feel to it. And what Marriage Story did is nothing short of remarkable. It's my number 7 film of the year. All right, let's move on to my number 6 film of the year. And my number 6 film of the year, I also call it one of my great little surprises because it looked cute. I didn't know it would be as deep and as moving as it was. And I didn't know Awkwafina could legit act until I saw The Farewell. You know, Awkwafina, I knew she could be really funny. I knew she could be really funny. I mean, she stole the show in Crazy Rich Asians. But I didn't know she was capable of doing what she did in this movie. I don't think her performance was so good that she deserved a Best Actress nomination, but I didn't know she was capable of doing the things she did in this movie. It asks intriguing moral dilemma questions. You know, do you lie to somebody you love if you think it's for their benefit, and all that kind of stuff. The family dynamics, while being from a different culture altogether, were remarkably familiar to all of us. The performance was great. Again, it was the moral questions. Because I remember Ann and I watched it, and we were heartwarming, and we laughed, and Ann cried a lot as well. And when we walked out, this is when you know a movie does moral questions well. When the first thing you talk about when you walk out is, what would we do? What would we do in a situation like that? What would we want to be done? And The Farewell just does it in such a brilliant way. It is a marvelous, wonderful film. There's a lot of people out there that this is the number one film of the year. I loved it incredibly. It gets into my top 10. It is my number 6 film of the year. The Farewell. Let's now move into the top 5. At number 5 is a movie that I knew from day one. Now, a lot of times we know a movie's going to be awesome and then it doesn't turn out to be. Well, fortunately for Ford v Ferrari, this is one of the movies that we knew was going to be awesome because it looked incredible, and thankfully it turned out to be awesome. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit perplexing to me how little buzz and little heat Ford v Ferrari's get. This movie is fan-frickin-tastic. This movie works on every level. All the performances are strong. The cinematography is great. The capturing of the period is wonderful. It's got action. It's got laughs. It's got pain. It's got, everything you want in a movie. Ford v Ferrari, or Le Mans 66, depending on where you live, is the title of it. This movie delivered. It's insane. It's so good. And I am absolutely beside myself that there is not actually more heat and more buzz for this movie than there is. Because it is one of the best films of the year. It is freaking brilliant. I'm really glad it got a Best Picture nomination, but it didn't really get much else Academy love outside of that. But yeah, Ford v Ferrari, first film in my top 5. It takes the number 5 spot for me. Wow, such a good film. Such a good film. All right, now we move into our top 4. And our number 4 film, again, it's a movie I suspected would be good, but it was actually even far better than I was expecting. And that's Knives Out. This movie is a masterclass on how to make movies. You have a movie that is populated with rich, colorful characters in a classic whodunit motif. A lot of it happens in one location in this house. The writing of this movie is stellar. The directing of this movie is stellar. The performances in this movie are stellar. And I really get a personal kick out of a lot of movies that tend to feel like they're made as a live stage play. I get a kick out of movies that feel like they're made as a live stage play. Knives Out kind of has a little bit of that feel in all the best ways possible. And I love the fact that Rian Johnson wanted to take us back, a return to the classic whodunit. Daniel Craig is absolutely fantastic in it. And of course, for a small little movie like this, it did very, very well at the box office. They are already moving forward and developing a part 2 so we can see the adventures of this detective played by Daniel Craig. Now that he's not going to be Bond anymore, the adventures of this detective solving more crimes before it. And I'll tell you what, I am all on board for it. This movie is bloody fantastic. Make sure you go and check it out if you have not yet. The number 4 film of the year for me is Knives Out. Guys, see Knives Out. All right, we now move into our top 3. At number 3 is a movie that is not necessarily my pick to win Best Picture, but it is the film I think will win Best Picture. All right? It wouldn't be my vote for number 1, but I believe this is the film that will win Best Picture, and I, for one, will have no complaints when it does, and that is the incredible 1917. I remember when the first spots for 1917 came out, it looked interesting. I mean, we heard about that. Okay, it's about a couple soldiers trying to get a front to stop an attack that could be an ambush. Okay, simple enough, basic enough. World War I movie, could be interesting, neat. Then we started hearing these incredible things about it, and I thought, well, this is probably just all overhype. And then I got to see it for myself and realized that the hype was real. The cinematography in this is breathtaking. What could have been a weird kind of shtick, maybe even a weak little shtick of trying to give the feel like the whole thing was all big one long tracking shot, worked incredibly well. It gave the movie a sense of intimacy. This shtick of making it all feel like one big shot, it gave the movie a sense of intimacy. And I didn't know it would do that or know how it did that. But it felt like you were right there on the shoulder with these guys as they were traversing the horrors that they were traversing. And the ending is very satisfying, all that kind of stuff as well. 1917 is, I said that Knives Out is a masterclass in a certain style of filmmaking. 1917 is a masterclass in another style of filmmaking. This was even conceived of by Sam Mendes, I'm not sure. I mean, he says it's from stories passed down to him, but how he conceptualized the idea of how they made this movie, to me, is absolutely remarkable. It is the one that I would put my money on to win Best Picture, and I'll have no complaints when it does, because it is absolutely worthy. My number 3 film of the year, once again, is 1917. All right, now we get into our top 2. My number 2 favorite film of the year. You know, I had number 1 film of the year. I came out of the theater watching this, and I immediately said, this is my number 1 film of the year, because I hadn't seen the other film yet. But for a long time, for a period of time, Parasite was, for a short little window, my number 1 film of the year. It's Parasite. Listen, the best way I know how to describe this little film, Parasite, is to say that it's the classic Michael Caine and Steve Martin comedy, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. So imagine Dirty Rotten Scoundrels being directed by Quentin Tarantino. That's the best way I know how to describe Parasite. It draws you in immediately. Like the moment you start meeting this family, this mother, father, brother, sister, and then the other family as well in question, like you're drawn in immediately. But what is insane about this movie is how quickly, seamlessly, and smoothly it kind of transitions from being one kind of a movie into another kind of a movie. In some way, it's a big con/heist kind of movie. Then it's kind of a retrospective thriller in some way. And then in some ways, there's a little bit of a horror element in some way. And then it just seamlessly flows in and out of these things, constantly challenging your expectations of the movie, constantly challenging your presuppositions of the movie, constantly challenging where you think this movie's going to go next. And everything from, again, the performances of it, the layout, the flow of it, just the nature of this film was one of the best theater experiences I had all year. And, every once in a while we hear about a certain foreign film and everybody raves like it's the greatest thing. And many times it doesn't live up to the hype that we heard for it. Parasite is one of those films that does. And I just remember being floored by this movie when I came out of it. So yes, Parasite is my number 2 film. And by the way, I believe a dark horse. I believe a dark horse to win Best Picture. It's going to be 1917, but I think Parasite could be a dark horse to win that. Anyway, that, guys, brings us to my number 1 film of the year. And I've been saying this film has been my favorite film of the year for months now. Nothing has taken its place. You guys already know what it is. And there's nothing I can say about it that I haven't already said. My number 1 best film of 2019 to me, unexpectedly, is Jojo Rabbit. This is a movie where, I was saying this about Awkwafina a little bit before, but I've said this about Taika Waititi. We know Taika Waititi is talented. We know Taika Waititi is good. We know he can deliver entertainment. We know he can deliver laughs. But Jojo Rabbit, to me, showed us something in Taika Waititi that I didn't know he was capable of. Taika Waititi played the audience like a fine instrument. It was heartwarming and funny. And then we would be reminded of the grips and the horror of what World War II in Germany under Hitler could have been and what it would have been like. And just as the movie starts to feel very heavy, he strikes a different note. He plays his violin a different way, Taika Waititi does. He strikes a different note and then brings in a laugh and a giggle. And he finds a way masterfully, like a maestro, from beginning to end of Jojo Rabbit, to maintain this flow of the heaviness and sadness, joy and laughter, heaviness and sadness, warmth and humanity, heaviness and sadness, more laughter. And he just finds a way to strike this balance and this chorus and this harmony of notes that by the end of the film, I remember walking out of it and just like standing stunned for a minute. Beyond just the gags of, the little kid with the rocket launcher, beyond that, you got to see the humanity of it. And has one of the most powerful, and I'll go say it, this movie has the most powerful scene out of any movie this year. And all you guys say is the shoe scene. And anybody who's seen Jojo Rabbit knows exactly what you're talking about. To me, it was unmistakably, undeniably the most single powerful moment of any movie this year. I never felt as much in any movie this year as I did when I realized what I was looking at on screen in the shoe scene. When that happened, I haven't had that kind of emotion. Not from other heavy, sad things like maybe in The Marriage Story. Not big, exciting things like maybe in Endgame. Nothing gave me an emotional moment as profound or probably long-term memorable as that scene in Jojo Rabbit. Now, it won't be like that for everybody. It won't be like that for everybody, but that's what it did for me. So just to recap, guys, my top 10 films of 2019 are The Irishman, Booksmart at number 9, at number 8, Joker, at number 7, Marriage Story, at number 6, The Farewell, at number 5, Ford v Ferrari, at number 4, Knives Out, at number 3, and probably your Best Picture winner at the Academy Awards this year, 1917, at number 2, Parasite, and of course, which has been for months now, but it remained in top spot. My number 1 film of the year for me was Jojo Rabbit. So there you have it, guys. There's my top 10 films of 2019. Question is, look, all top 10 lists are going to be unique. Your list is going to look different than my list, and your list is going to look different from the guys next to you list. All of our lists are going to look different, but those are films, 10 absolutely fantastic, wonderful films with a lot of other fantastic, wonderful films that didn't even make it on the list. That's how good the year of 2019 was in film. So guys, what do you think? Jump on down to the comment section below. Let me know your top 10 list. What does your top 10 list look like? Jump on down there and let me know your thoughts. All right.